Record, Mr. Shirley is not present. First item of business is approval of the May invoices. If everyone's had time, we need to have a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the May invoices.
Motion by Mr. Moran,
I second.
second by Ms. Mizell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion approved. Next item of business is approval of the May 11th, 2017 minutes. Everyone's had a chance to look at those. No corrections. We'll take a motion for approval.
Make the motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Caldwell,
Second.
second by Mr. Solsky. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved. Approval of the June agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Ms. Mizell,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion approved. Items for postponement and withdrawal. We still just got the two that's listed, Joe.
Yes, sir, it's just Sunbelt Rental and Morgan Property. And then we do have under other business, the Coal Ridge issue is postponed.
Anyone here for that, or you guys here for that? For either one of those? Okay.
I make a motion for the,
We don't have to do that, I don't think, do we?
good.
Consent agenda? I don't think we have anything eligible. Nothing. Charlie, you want to swear in our?
Yes, could everyone who
Folks,
signed to
please.
swear, signed to speak tonight, stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the statement you're to make tonight to be the truth to the best of your information and belief?
Yes.
Thank you.
Our first application be PDP 2017-13 Canewood Subdivision, Unit 6, Lot 1.
Okay, this is a preliminary development plan request for the townhome area at Kingwood. This area is zoned R3. It's at the westernmost entrance to Kingwood subdivision. It includes this already partially developed townhome area, and then the application tonight is for the west side of Kingwood Center Drive. This application was rezoned, or this property was rezoned in the late 90s. There was a preliminary development plan approved in 2003. I think after this, it was amended a few times, but generally this is the approval of the townhome area. So it was approved for 77 townhome units on it. This system of, private system of internal roads for the most part, on 2.9 acres. This is zoned R3. It was zoned R3 at the time of the original rezoning. That zoning wasn't amended at all, but the density that this was built out to was a little bit under R3. So R3 is 16 units an acre. R2 is our other multifamily category. It's 12 units an acre. This is a little bit under both. It's behind the commercial center at Kingwood and is pretty much surrounded by golf course. This westernmost section wasn't shown as being built or proposed to be built on because of the bypass right-of-way. We're supposed to cut through this area. I think this the right-of-way location wasn't finalized at the time, so they didn't show any building that area. They also showed a connection to the bypass, or potential connection to the bypass on that traffic circle on Kingwood Center. After the bypass went in, I believe the remnant, the right-of-way was purchased and the remnant was transferred back to either the homeowners association or whoever owned it at the time. So this remnant created this new piece, and it included some of the commercial areas. So south of this line was commercial, north is R3, and the townhome area was this area here. So once that remnant was created, we've got interest in developing that section. It's obviously not very deep, but it is zoned R3, so it is zoned for multifamily development. since this is there was no development shown in this area originally, we believe the HOA ordinance, which we've talked about at previous meetings, will still have to be met, but they won't have to go back and amend any HOA kind of any already approved HOA restrictions, but they will have to adopt HOA covenants and restrictions that either match the adjoining parcel, or they'll have to be part of the adjoining parcel. So the parcel that you share the largest boundary with, you're supposed to match up with the covenants and restrictions in that section. So they'll have to meet those requirements. This development originally, as submitted, had 12 units. So it had 4 lots with 3 attached townhome buildings on each. The original proposal was to access all those with front-loaded garages. At TRC, we thought that because this is a main entry into the subdivision, we'd like to try to reduce the number of curb cuts on that road and kind of reduce the parking, the overflow parking that would be on Kingwood Center Drive. So we suggested they look back at the plan and try to come up with a plan that had rear-loaded garages. And also, we have a requirement for 2.5. Each townhome unit over 2 bedrooms has to provide 2.5 off-street parking spaces. So they couldn't get that in this layout because they were planning on, I believe, 1-car garages at the time. But anyway, each unit would have to provide those 2.5. So the garages count as parking spaces. So if there were 2-car garages on these units, in theory they could meet it, but I believe they were 1-car proposed. So they went back and looked at it and have resubmitted this plan, which is the plan you're reviewing tonight. It gets rid of 3 of the townhouses and replaces it with this standalone surface parking lot, and also provides some parking behind these 2 units, or these 3 units on the north. They moved the access points to this one point just south of the traffic circle to serve these northern unit. Well, actually, there's a through street in the back. So two curb cuts, basically, serving rear access garages. Obviously, it's still very tight, especially this southern building with these 3 units. They're proposing, I believe, 2-story townhomes for the southernmost units with the really narrow area of the lot. They're proposing to keep this as 1 lot, so not subdivide it, but develop it with these 9 rear access garaged townhome units. In order to get that driveway in the back and get it the width that the fire department needs it, they need 20 feet of clear space to meet fire code, and to maintain this barrier wall. So the state transportation, when they put in the bypass, they also put in this sound barrier wall and landscaping along it. There's a 10-foot easement back on the back of these lots along the sound barrier wall, and that's just it was for the construction and maintenance of the wall. They've also have landscaping back there, but looking at the easement, it doesn't mention landscaping at all. So I think the easement is really just for the wall itself. But because of that wall, because of the easements back there, in the narrowness of the remnant, they need a variance to the front setback in order to get these units in. So they're asking to reduce the front setback from 20 feet to 10 feet. Other than that, they can meet all our landscaping requirements, they can meet our parking requirements, all our other setbacks, and all other zoning R3 requirements. we are recommending approval with the conditions in the staff report, which are fairly standard conditions. And I guess the justification for, or the reasoning for recommending approval is that this is an area that is zoned R3 already, so it's zoned for this use. They are meeting all our requirements, and they did try to address the issue of parking on the street and curb cuts on the street by moving the parking and the garages to the rear. Obviously, it probably be improved by losing 3 of the units and just utilizing that area for parking. Then you would avoid using that narrowest portion of the lot. But they did try to meet all our requests by moving the driveways and garages to the rear, and in doing that, they have met all the requirements of R3, so we are recommending approval. And I believe all the conditions, other than the one variance to the front setback, all the conditions are pretty standard conditions. Which the one I would point out, I guess, is number 4, that they'll have to meet the city's HOA ordinance and submit those covenants and restrictions before final development plan approval.
Anyone have any questions for Joe? Joe, what was that? You said something about the fire department 22. Where was that at? On the backside?
I believe it's in my staff report, but that I just mentioned it to say that came up at TRC. That fire code says you've got to have 20 feet any drive or driveway, road.
So is that one
alley needs to have 20 feet of clear area, and I think the condition in the staff report is just that they meet all applicable requirements of the Georgetown Fire Department. So I didn't spell it out specifically.
Because on that backside there, that one measurement says 18 feet.
Well, 18 feet is the pavement width, but there'll be a grassy area on each side, so that overhang is.
So they use that.
They just can't put building in that area.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Applicant?
I'm Rory Kay with EA Partners. With me is Rob McGoodwin. I like Joe's report. I like the conditions, recommendation of approval. I'll answer any questions you have, but otherwise we'll try to keep this short and easy.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Nobody has any questions? Does anyone have any more discussion on this?
Is anyone here to speak on it?
All right, is anyone here from the audience on this application? Does anyone have any concern?
I think it's good use of property that's already got roads and sewer and electric. Finish it out.
I don't like it personally. I don't like it. I think 10 foot off the road's too close for any building to be sitting. Personally, I mean, they're asking for a 15-foot variance. That's a big variance in my opinion.
But
That's all.
won't be any driveways there though. The driveways will all be in the back.
So that pushes the building straight out to the road. Just me personally, I don't like seeing a building sitting 10 foot off the road. I think they're just trying to squeeze in whatever they can here. Which I understand, it's their property. They're trying to get what they can out of the value of the property, but that's a very busy road, and we start pushing townhouses within 10 foot of the road. There ain't no front yard for kids to play in. Where are they gonna play? It's just my opinion.
Seems to me like it'd be nice just to have some green space out there.
I agree.
With all the land is in the county, I don't see the value of crowding things in like that.
I don't either.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
May I chime in?
Name, please.
I'm sorry, Rob McGoodwin, and I represent Snaphook, the developer of this project. The setback variance that we're asking for is 10 feet, but we're actually 18.5 feet off of the street. So we're 10 feet behind the curb.
I thought
Excuse
what
me,
we-
behind the sidewalk.
I thought what we said in the meeting on Monday was it's 10 foot off of the street.
No, it's 10 feet off the.
Off the
property
sidewalk.
line, which is the back of the sidewalk.
How close is the sidewalk? Is the sidewalk right on the street?
No. 4 feet,
4 foot sidewalk.
4,
Got grass space,
I think it's
so that pushes it back to what, 18 feet?
18.5.
That's a whole lot better. Yeah, because I asked that question in meeting the other day, and everybody said, yeah, it's 10 foot off the street.
Well, somebody did mention that there was a sidewalk.
No, that's what I heard too on Monday.
That was some confusion, I
10
guess.
foot from the
but-
curb is what I heard.
Yeah, we've got 4.5 feet from the pavement, then 4 foot sidewalk, and then 10 feet to the front of the building.
So you got like a 10 foot yard then,
Yes, sir.
Ain't
which
much.
still ain't much, but, so you're only asking for a 10 foot variance,
Yes, sir.
not a 15 foot variance.
Oh, no, sir.
It is a big improvement though, not to have people backing out on that street, having those rear entry.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the whole concept is great, I just think it's squeezing into a tight spot, that's just, because that is a very busy street.
Well, we limited the access points to the intersection as you come in to the first road to the right goes up to the townhouse.
Uh-huh.
We're opposite it, and then we're right up at the traffic circle also.
Oh, that bottom entrance is right across from the other townhouse
Directly across.
units?
Uh-huh.
That's a good idea, too.
And we're gonna have a crosswalk there.
What about that second entrance? Is it across from the other one? I can't really tell on
It's
that.
right up just a little bit below the traffic circle, where
But
it's
there's
just
another
below an
entrance.
existing curb cut now.
There's another entrance on the right to the other
Uh-huh.
townhouse. Is it
Yes.
across from it?
It's across from it as well.
Okay.
It comes off the traffic circle, the other one on the opposite side.
Uh-huh.
So it's just south of the traffic circle. So it's not directly on the street. It really can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. Any other questions? If not, we need a motion.
I'll make the
We do have a
motion.
variance, if we want to vote on the variance first, or we can put it all together, however everybody wants to do
I'll
it.
make a motion to include variance number 1, reduction of the front setback on Canewood Center Drive to 10 feet, and make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Solsky for approval.
With the 9 conditions.
Correct, and the 9 conditions of approval.
Is
Yeah,
that
just
Mr.
9.
Mr. Caldwell, did you second that? Second. We have a second by Mr. Caldwell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Mr. Wiseman and myself are against it, so. Motion's approved, though. I'm ready whenever you are, Joe. I'm sorry. Next application is Emerson Farms.
Yes.
Emerson Farms Commercial Center, PDP 2017-20.
Okay, this is a request to, for preliminary development plan approval and preliminary subdivision plat approval for the commercial center at Emerson Farms. We had an issue with the mailing, with this project, so I don't know if you wanted to discuss that now before I get into the
Yeah, can we,
presentation.
Charlie, did you hear about this?
Yes, sir, I have. And first off, let me say, I was thinking when this first came up that this was actually an ordinance that we had adopted with the extra notice requirements. It's just been a policy that we basically said we want you to do it. It's not a requirement. And I'm not sure how I got so confused on it. Anyway, but it wasn't done. It is in fact our practice, but it is not a requirement. And really probably ought to be made a requirement. We had this once before, at least as I recall it, and they had complied with everything. We went ahead and approved it on that one. We still allowed the folks, I think, to come back the following month and raise some cane, but the requirements and the recommendation was approval and so on. So we went ahead and did that. I understand, obviously, the applicant's got some things to say about this tonight, but when I first heard about this, I thought this was a requirement. I checked with staff, and no, it's a policy, but it's never been made a requirement. So,
What do we have to do to get it to be a requirement, Charlie?
adopt it as an ordinance.
Does that have to go through all the local governments?
Have a public hearing, recommended, to the legislative bodies, and they adopt it. And I'm sure they would, because that has been the policy. But right now, that's just been our practice. It is not a requirement, so it's kind of hard to hold it against
Charlie,
them.
is it a practice or a policy? Because to me, a policy means a little more than practice.
Well, this hasn't been adopted as a regulation. Let me just put it that way. We've actually been requiring people to do it, but we haven't required them, with the proper authority, having been adopted and so on.
To me, if it's in a policy, kind of still means you have to do it, not an ordinance.
Well, and
practice is different.
And it's something that we've actually required folks to do. It's just that we really don't have the authority to do that because we've never adopted it as a regulation. And we've been doing this for, I can't even tell you how many years, but quite a few.
Charlie, is that something you can get wrote up for us by next month?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And we can have a
And
public
what we
hearing
do
on
as
that
part of
tomorrow?
our agenda next time, we just advertise as a public hearing, open a public hearing, talk about it for a moment, see if there's any opposition to it, which I really doubt, and then take a vote to recommend it to the four bodies.
Charlie, with this being preliminary, application preliminary stage, how much would it be a problem without it tonight?
Well, that's something the applicant would need to address. And the only thing I'm addressing is that we've really been requiring it, but it really hasn't been a regulation on which we can literally say to somebody, we're not going to hear you because you didn't do this. Well, this really isn't a requirement. So
It's kind of like, I think, our schedule of meetings and submittal deadlines. It's not, it's just something we establish as policy and we adopt every year, but it's not an ordinance. Adopting it as an ordinance might take away some of the flexibility or the ease of application.
and that's something staff needs to recommend or think about, because that's obviously quite true. And in fact, this has never been a real problem. I think this is the second time that this has come up. Because ultimately, we have certain authority, and if they comply with everything, we really don't have the authority to then impose things that, that really don't change anything and would, in effect, deny them, even though they've complied with everything.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the KRS statute says they don't have to say.
Yeah,
this, right?
this is not a requirement in KRS.
And even though it is just a policy, you can still refuse to hear it. Your hands aren't tied.
I think as we represent the community, I really think it's important that the community be notified that this is happening. So if it's been standard policy, I just think it's right that the surrounding neighbors need to be notified.
It's not in opposition. For the sake of discussion, if not too much opposition, I'd be willing to.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Mark, but I kind of agree with Byron
Well,
too.
we don't have any opposition because they don't know about it.
Well, and it's not a, well, are you folks here for this application? Okay. And I think this is a preliminary anyway. They're staying to their concept plan pretty close to it. They're making a few minor changes from the concept plan that we've already approved. And we can always require them to come back on their final development plan, make them send notices in. So we got several options we can look, or we can make them We can say, no, we don't wanna hear it tonight, and make them come back next month, make them pay for a special meeting, do whatever. We got several options we can do. We just don't.
The big issue is a road needs to be completed
Yeah, the road is a
Before-
big issue right now, so.
ideally before school starts back.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I
Yes, sir.
I'm Dick Murphy, I'm the attorney for Anderson Communities, just, if I can make a comment on it, we would like it to be heard tonight because of that issue with the road. We're trying to build the road before school gets back in session, before we have that disruption in there. And it's not a statutory requirement. That being said, we respect your process, and if you all are not comfortable with proceeding with it tonight, we'll come back next month, so.
Did you guys get your notices? Did y'all try to send any out?
Yeah, we did. We sent notices Tuesday. Yeah, we got them in the mail Tuesday, and as a test, we did ourselves as one of the people getting it. We got ours Wednesday. We mailed them in Georgetown, so they wouldn't be going to Lexington or Knoxville, wherever they send the mail now and back. So we mailed them in Georgetown. We got ours in Lexington on Wednesday. I think the staff got theirs today in the mail, notifying the people of tonight's meeting. So we got that notice out. It's our fault we didn't get the first notice out. We're not trying to put the blame on anybody else. It's our fault. But our situation is with that road, we just wanted to let you know where we're at, and we'll abide by however you all decide whether you proceed tonight or not.
Instead of coming back next month, would you guys be open to the special meeting? Doing a special meeting we talked about the other day.
We thought if you don't hear it, we'll just come back next month at your regular meeting.
Okay. So I guess we need to decide if we want to hear this application tonight or make them come back next month, since the notifications weren't sent.
So they all were sent but weren't received?
Well, they were sent, but
Some were received today, some were
Today.
received yesterday.
some might get received tomorrow.
Okay.
Did you?
How many did you have to send out?
About 100.
117.
Our engineer said for the record 117.
Okay.
The people here in the audience, did you receive your notice today? Today? Today?
That's kind of short notice.
It is short notice.
117, yeah.
We can do whatever the commission wants to do. If we can get a motion either way.
Well, to get things moving, I'll make a motion that we postpone it till next month.
I'll
Well,
second.
Motion by Mr. Wiseman.
I
A
second.
second by Mr. Solsky. All those in favor say aye. To postpone it to next month, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay?
Yeah, I'm kinda like, I'd like to just hear it tonight, but that's fine. We got a majority, and that's what we're supposed to do, so we'll postpone it till next month.
If we could note, Mr. Chairman, for Mary taking the minutes, that voting no on that was what, Steve
Mr.
and the chair?
Yes, the
Okay.
chair and Mr. Smith voted no.
Okay.
All others voted yes.
Do you want us to send out another set of notices?
Motion with the.
Charlie,
I got you.
he's asking,
Kind of reverse.
do
Do
we
you want
want
us to send out another set of notice for next meeting?
Well, actually, the notices being sent Tuesday was sort of helpful for today, but it really isn't helpful for next time. Because ordinarily, if you continue a meeting a month, then whoever got notice for this night, you don't have to notice them again. The whole reason you postponed it for a month is because you really weren't sure people got notice and they didn't get adequate notice. So I hate to say it, but I really think you need to send them again, for next month. Okay, thank you.
So our next meeting is what, Joe? What's the date? You have it, Matt? For those of you attending, and it'll be we'll hear it on the 13th. But you should get another notice in the mail.
I hate that we're postponing it, but at the same time, I've got a feeling there are a lot of people that would probably have some input. Probably aren't here tonight.
That's a great project.
Postpone. All right, moving right along. The next item of business
All right.
is the Coal Ridge Preserve.
Ridge.
Postponed.
Yeah, was
Oh, that's right,
postponed.
postponed.
So the next item is Cedar Hills Phase 2A, preliminary plat revocation. This is a cluster subdivision that, Phase 1 was developed and the preserved area set aside. Phase 2 came in as a preliminary plat, and was approved, but it was never finalized. So Phase 2A was never constructed. So we've got this preliminary plat, and as
We don't
part
have
of.
one of those.
Joe, we don't have any of this information.
No, it's, we didn't, this is just a request to revoke the plat, so I just put it in the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We can talk about it, and if you need more information, I think I brought the file. So, I guess just to explain the background, Cedar Hills is on 25 North, near Northern Elementary, between 25 and the interstate. I think, what is this road again? Summer Ridge? Phase 1 was built with Summer Ridge, lots along Summer Ridge. As part of that, Phase 1, the preserved area was set aside up here. But without getting into all the details, because there's a lot of them, I guess suffice to say that Phase 1 was completed and the preserved area set aside by plat. And then Phase 2 came in and the preliminary was approved, and the preliminary showed the preserved down here around the proposed cluster lots and to the south. Well, the preserved area was sold off before the cluster lots were built. So when they were sold off, they had to be restricted as preserved area. And they were either restricted with one preserved credit or zero credits. And I don't remember which is which, but it's not really that important. And then purchaser purchased the area of the cluster lots and some of the preserved area, and then two other individuals bought some of the land. Well, the purchaser of the cluster lot area doesn't want to do the subdivision, so he came in, and Alan Handelman it is Handelman, right? Okay. Came into the office and asked how he could transfer some of the credits to the adjoiners that had their land restricted. Well, since the cluster subdivision was never put in theory, they wouldn't be restricted, but they had plats recorded that restricted them. So I told them, well, you have to revoke the preliminary and then get the plats amended to take off the restriction. Well, it turned out to be, this was going to be very expensive, and it's step process. First, you got to revoke the plat, and then you have to get somebody to prepare a new plat that amends the preserved area. Well, that's kind of where we are now. The first step is revoking the plat, and I didn't call you about this, Charlie, because it was kind of put on the agenda late. But all that's being requested tonight is the revocation of the plat. And this isn't a revocation of a final plat that's recorded at the courthouse. This is just revocation of the approved preliminary plat. And then with that done and that documented, then we can move forward and take the restrictions off the preserved area for these clusters, because the cluster subdivision won't happen because it doesn't have approval.
Yeah, the only
So-
requirement is, as I recall it, is the owner or owners of all the land shown on the plat to be revoked sign a request to be revoked. So as long as everybody's represented, or if this gentleman's the only person to be represented, then yeah,
So
then we
does
can
the planning
approve it.
commission, the planning commission still has to take action?
Yeah, I think they need to approve that But the only thing required to come to you is the request by everybody that owns property on that plat.
So is the preserved area, this section that wasn't built, is there just one preserved area that will revert back to
I'll go back to the end.
one unit per 5 acres?
Well, I believe there's 3 preserved areas that are related to this cluster lot, because there's so many cluster lots. And I believe at the time that this one, the original cluster went in, you were allowed to subdivide the cluster into 25-acre tracts. And I believe that was done with this first cluster. And then once it went in, there was some consolidation and redrawing of that preserved land. So that, in effect, I think created this 35-acre tract from part of the preserved area. But I guess to answer your question, the preserved for the second cluster is in more than one tract. So it's in multiple
But these
tracts.
preserved areas, even after we revoke this, are still not gonna have 1 unit per 5 acres, are they? They'll probably be
Well,
1 unit, I mean, it'll just be so many building credits on it.
they'll have to come back and make that amendment on the plot that's recorded is how I
I think so.
interpret it. I mean, right now they're restricted, but the only reason they're restricted is because they're preserved for these future cluster lots. Once that cluster goes away, then all restrictions in theory would go away. But you have to make that legal by amending the plat that's
Yeah, it would
already
have to be
recorded.
reflected on a plat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there's homes at the adjoining property north of this property, correct? That
There
were
are
the
homes all here,
Yeah.
in this faded kind of lot. These
So
lot
as we
lines
talked
here.
about requirements or policy to notify adjoining owners, wouldn't we want to hear this like an application and not do a 5-minute presentation and really have very little knowledge of this and try to make a decision tonight?
Well, the statute sets out the requirements for revoking a plat, and it is the owners make application and they all sign off. There's no requirements for anybody else. 'Cause it doesn't-
Notification of anybody?
I mean, basically, it takes away
Yeah, I mean-
your ability to subdivide
anything.
it unless you come back to
But
the
did we
planning
talk about
commission.
this Monday, and I know I left a little early, it was my wife's birthday, but it wouldn't have been a little, I felt like we didn't, again, we have no knowledge of any of this, and we've got a 5-minute presentation and go revoke the plat and make a decision. Why didn't we talk about this Monday night? I know we had this on the agenda. What?
I think they're going to a lesser use though, not a more.
Yeah, my question would be, would there ever be a circumstance where you wouldn't revoke a
Charlie,
plat?
I guess what I'm saying is, A, we didn't talk about this Monday, and I do apologize, I left and I wasn't there Monday. But wouldn't it have been nice to have a little more discussion on this?
Well, I mean, probably, but I'm just wondering, because,
And why didn't?
I mean, we haven't done but maybe 3 plats revoking in 30 years.
Right.
But it's always been seen as an improvement because it takes away development. It doesn't, I mean, it literally takes it back to raw land. The guy's gonna have a farm when this is done. So the people, all the people through the years who said, I thought we'd have a farm behind us, well, these actually are gonna have a farm.
They're gonna be tickled to death.
Yeah, they're gonna be tickled.
So it'll go
So
back
before we
to,
make a decision,
one.
don't we have to have the signatures of everybody?
Oh yeah, there's
Well,
got to be a written request, it's gotta be signed off on. And if that's in the record, then it's done. If it's not, then you can certainly make that condition, because that's a statutory
so what's it
requirement.
currently zoned?
It's zoned A1.
Yeah, it's still agricultural, that's all that's happening.
So it's just that we'll be revoking the plat to do a cluster with the preserve, and then it'll stay one.
It'll just be a farm, yeah.
And that's all one track, Joe? Is it all one track?
No, it's not. Well, it's 3 tracks, I believe.
That's why I feel like there's so much involved when we make a split decision.
Well, I mean, I think the confusion is that, these lots aren't out there. They're not platted lots that can be built on. This is just a preliminary approval.
Whereas
So
the-
just
the
like
current homes
our
are kinda
sunset
shaded.
clause, if this
Yeah.
is approved, it would go away by itself.
Yeah, this
without
is just
your
like the
action.
sunset clause. Let's having a vote on it.
And why didn't we talk about this Monday, Joe? Or Matt?
Well, I
Oh.
think we got,
Ben? You were there.
You left, so we didn't.
I
know.
left?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
left,
no,
so
yeah,
we just
right,
quit.
exactly.
We did talk about it. No.
No, I mean,
Well, most times
It
we don't
was-
talk about the other
I-
business anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it was on there.
Yeah,
We
but most
should
time we don't
have
talk
talked
about
about it, I
something
guess.
like that.
I thought we could talk about it now.
Monday if I'd have stayed.
Yeah, but you
It's
weren't
other,
there.
it's other business.
All right.
We got
Whatever.
sidetracked, is all
All
I
right.
can say on other things. But
It seems to me like the people want it gone, and there's really nothing to talk about.
That's the way I look at it too.
If you remember back when
Come to the microphone.
Sorry, Chris Atkins, one of the joining property owners. When the Francisco was going through all the deliberation, trying to get this subdivided into this cluster, there was huge opposition from all the neighbors. Nobody wanted it, nothing. And now I bought half the property, Alan bought half the property. We don't want the subdivision, so we're dissolving it. Everybody's happy.
When was this approved, Joe?
2010.
I was gonna say, I think I was here then, when we approved this one. We had a big meeting that
Yeah,
night.
no, everybody, all the Summer Ridge neighbors were very
Yeah, we had a big
upset.
meeting that night, yeah.
It was postponed.
I was a very young commissioner then.
Yeah.
You're about 7 years younger.
Very naive.
Yeah. Thank you. Do we need any more discussion on this?
We need to vote on it.
Do we need any more discussion? Everybody good with it?
Do we need a motion to?
Yes, we
revoke?
need a motion, please.
I'd make the motion that we revoke Cedar Hills Phase 2A preliminary plat.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wiseman. A motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Wiseman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Mr.
And I
Shep-
just want to go on record saying we should talk about these things on Monday, so we're not knee-jerking at the night of the meeting.
Mr. Solsky voted no, everyone else voted yes.
And I think it's great that it's being reverted back, don't get me wrong, I just think we need to be more well-informed.
Joe, you have anything else?
Do you have anything? Yeah. I saw you put the report in there. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything on the current projects.
No, we had a, I can go up there if I need to. We didn't talk about this on Monday either. I'm sorry.
Charlie, Mark?
We had a list of active projects, I guess, what's going on, so you can put that back in there. Like I offered before, if you want to see something different, let us know. If you got questions on any of those?
Everybody try to look at this over the month, and if you got any questions, let's ask next month at the meeting. I think it's a good idea.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man.
Thank you, man.
There's actually it's in there two different ways. If you prefer one or the other, we can put it that way.
I got one other thing, Jordan. Bluegrass RV came last month, asked for permission to set up and sell trailers. Since then, they have moved the trailers back to the front.
Oh, I had that.
Yes. And they've actually got the slide outs pushed out. They've got them set up. To me, they're selling trailers out there. RVs, not trailers,
You
but
talking about that
RVs.
next to the road?
Yeah.
Well,
Go
they've
by there,
loaded
right.
them in the back, and then there's probably about 20,
Yeah, I
about
know, yeah.
a third of the way up. Not
Right where they're gonna
complete-
set their building, they've moved them back up in that area. Is there anything we can do about this? To me, they're making us look like fools, like we have no say-so in anything. Can we revoke their application?
Don't know that we can revoke their application. We could certainly take enforcement action against them, take them to district court. They could be fined up to $500 a day for violation. The complication is at the moment, the court gave them a 90-day stay against enforcement of this very thing. The 90-day stay was because they expected us to be heard in court by them. Well, our judge was offered the Court of Appeals position, and he thought he'd probably be replaced fairly quickly. That process is maybe not even half done yet. It was well over a month before they even announced the vacancy for some reason. The names have not all been submitted yet to the committee. That doesn't happen until the 15th. They then have 2 to 4 weeks, I don't know what the time period is, to submit 3 names to the governor. The governor's then got, I don't know, maybe another 30 days to figure out which of those 3 he would put in that position. So we're not going to have a judge probably for maybe another month and a half.
Charlie, I know for a fact, they have some judges that are working some of his
We have
files.
a temporary judge.
A couple
taking-
different people is what I've heard.
Well, I don't know. Judge Clark's the only one I've dealt with.
Okay.
And he's attempting to kind of do the temporary stuff, not actually hear the whole case, but the temporary stuff. He may be willing, so we may be able to put some in, say, for the July rule day. We've already had rule day for June. I'd say that two things. First off, we need to contact Bruce tomorrow. Yeah, Bruce, and tell them they need to get that stuff out of there. And number two, we can put on a motion for the July rule day, because Judge Clark, I'm assuming, will be back. If not, it'll be somebody else, but it'll be one of those temporary replacements. And we can see what they'd be willing to do, because the 90 days ends this month sometime. We got about 10 days or so to go. So once that's done, number one, Bruce will be on notice that they need to watch out because the 10 days are almost up. And number two, we'll go before the judge and see if we can get something.
So at the end of the 90 days, do they have to start moving them then, or?
The end of the 90 days, if nothing is done by the court, then our enforcement goes back into place.
Which is our Board of Adjustments ruling that they have to move them?
Yeah.
When was 90 days up?
But he said about 10 days.
Well, actually, Matt, I didn't figure it. I
calculated it from March 20th, which was the date that we got the...
that Judge Johnson entered that 90-day order.
And it's been 80 days counting today. So on the 18th, that'll be 90 days.
And I can't really imagine the court would be real thrilled about them moving them back. Moving them out, obviously, that's, I think, is a good faith gesture. Moving them back, especially after they came here and asked for permission and were told no, I mean, that can't look good. I mean,
He's trying to, you got the other place opening Saturday, and
Yeah.
he's trying to get his sales in.
Opens tomorrow.
Yeah, opens tomorrow.
Yeah, I just don't think it's fair to the ones across the road for
Yeah.
these to be sitting and doing what they're doing.
I don't
I
think
know
it's fair to
several
anybody
of
that
them.
comes before us.
Yeah.
I know
mean,
several
everybody
of
else
those
has to follow the
RVs are.
process.
I know several of those RVs were rented for the festival, so they may have moved them up for that, but I'm not going to say all of them were.
I was just very shocked. I drove by there the other day and
So,
said,
you know, I've been by there 2 or 3 times. Of course, you're turning there, and
There's probably about 15 of them towards the front. There's got to be at least 40 in the back. And
Oh, yeah.
it looks
There's
like
a
there
bunch of them in
keeps
the back.
being
Yeah.
more added in the back.
Well, I hadn't seen that, so I think I'll go by and take a photograph, and I'll talk to Bruce tomorrow.
yeah, especially after he just asked last month, and we said
Yeah,
no.
that's just a
That
little.
didn't make sense to
That's a
me.
little too bold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I had. I just want to bring that up.
I'm glad you did.
So we're going to talk about this?
Joe, do we need to talk about this letter?
That's
Charlie.
That's the worst stuff.
We need to talk about that letter that was put in front of us tonight.
That should have gone to your workshop as well. Along with your check.
Should have gave me his check. We would have donated it back.
Just that letter.
I don't think we, well.
I've read it.
I mean, I'd frankly prefer not to talk about it tonight.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Oh, I'm in favor of that one.
Everybody good?
Fine.
Oh, I'm
Let's
sorry.
go.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thanks,
I
guys.
did, didn't I? Yeah, actually. Yeah.
All right.